and some of them, well, for David, it's in the middle of the night, so we really appreciate having David Pegrero as our guest of our new ABC webinar series, where we have every 14 days a game-changing speaker about a, well, between quotes, a hot topic in society, which we want to discuss, and especially what it means to us as individual workers. And we're very happy to have David from Mexico. David is a well, he's basically a marketing specialist, and he teaches marketing at university, and he's also working at an incubator where he helps startups with marketing, but he can explain that himself a little bit much better than I can. So, David, thank you for being there at this very, very late hour for you, and maybe you can introduce yourself and how you get into teaching. Well, you're still yourself rather a young person, so how did you, well, fall into that path?
Sure, thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you very much, all of you, for being here with us. It's a great honor for me to be here on my first webinar in my life. So it's an honor to be invited by Arnold and Rotana, who are friends from the other part of the world. Well, my name is David. I was born in Mexico City, so I'm from Mexico, but I live in Tijuana right now. I have been teaching at university for 3 years now. I'm a marketing guy, like Arnold said. I teach political marketing, and I also teach communication. And I also work at a business incubator called MindHub. And what we do is we develop startups, which is a topic that Lauren is very well familiar with it because he also has a startup. So I'm the public relations and marketing guy for the business incubator. So what we do is we develop startups. We have a program which is called MindCubic, and we develop 3 startups every 3 months. And we help the entrepreneurs when they have an idea, and we help them to validate the idea, find their business model, and together build a prototype, or what it's called an MVP. And how did I start teaching? Well, it happened 3 years ago, and it was a very funny story because I was working at a different place before, not at the MindHub. And then a friend of mine told me like, hey, can you join me to go back to university? I have to give a conference. And I was like, sure, why not? I haven't been at the university like since I graduated, which was like 3 years before that time. So then when I got at the university, we were there at my previous faculty. One of my teachers said like, hey, this teacher is looking for you. You should go and see him. And he was looking for you all over the place. I was like, sure, I'll go and see him. And he was like, hey, I was looking for you because I wanted you to teach political marketing. And I was like, oh, well, I'm sorry, I'm back in town. And then he says, well, give me your cell phone, I will give you a call for next semester. And then I was like, okay. So 2 weeks later, after that time, I go back to university because it was the graduation of one of my friends. And then this other teacher says like, hey, this teacher is looking for you again. You should go and see him. So I go to him. He says like, hey, what's going on? And he says like, I need to replace a teacher because I mean he's not doing his job properly, so I need to replace him. Can you come on Tuesday for an interview with the principal? And I was like, sure. It took me by surprise because I didn't have planned to be a teacher. But I don't know. I think it was meant to be. I was at the right moment at the right time, I guess. And I went to the job interview. I gave my resume. I went through the whole process, and they gave me the opportunity to start teaching. It was quite a challenge because the semester was already on. So I started in October, and the end of the semester was in December. So I had 2 months to give a full semester. So it was quite a challenge. So that's how I started teaching. I don't know. I guess it was luck. I guess I was a lucky guy.
But what was it, something that you always wanted to do, or was it just or were you just opportunity driven, or was it something in the back of your mind, hey, at some point in time in my life I want to be a teacher?
I think it was a little bit of both, because honestly, I had never considered it before. Like I never thought like, oh yeah, I wish I could be a teacher or something. it was more something that happened, but I also think I had a skill to do it, so it was very easy for me to join that world and start teaching. So like I said, I mean, maybe it was written in the stars or something like that, thinking very philosophically. But yeah, I mean, I think it was meant to be. I never looked for it though, but I took the chance. It was a risk too, it was quite a challenge, but I'm very happy that I took that risk.
What you did mention, David, skills to be able to be a teacher in these what we call challenging times with the new ABCs. And what are some crucial skills of these new generation of teachers which you think are really, really important?
One of the things that I am seeing right now, the school that I'm teaching is two different kind of teachers. For example, there are ones that are more like into the academic kind of thing. They have been like teaching their whole life and doing a lot of research, but they haven't even done some work outside of university. And there are this other group of teachers, which I guess that I'm included in that part, where we have the experience of going through school, and also we have the experience of being out there working in a professional matter. Um, so what I have seen, the reaction that I have seen the students is they always go and start following those the second group of teachers, the ones that have already have done some work outside. They already have some professional skills developed, and they already have some professional experience out there. So for me, that's something very important as a teacher to have that skill of knowing what's going on out there and bring that knowledge back to my students. Um, and of course, all the skills that I have developed at my current job had helped me to be better at my other job. I don't see it as a job because I'm really enjoying it, which is teaching. Like, for example, being good at meeting new people, for example, and be good at public relationships and be good at the marketing skills that I had to develop. And I don't know. So I think that's it.
So does that create tension at your school, at your university? Because you said you have these two groups of teachers, one which seems to be popular with the students, and the other one are the traditional, if I may say so, academics. So does that create a tension, or does that create that they like something like us and them?
It does a little bit because I mean you have these teachers who have been for 5, 10, 15 years. I even have, I mean, it's very funny because some of the teachers were my teachers and now they're my colleagues. That was like 10 years ago that when I was at university. So that's kind of weird. So it's not like a tension with me specifically because I only have two classes, two groups. But it does create a kind of tension because you can see it in the students when you ask the student like, hey, who are your favorite teachers, or when they start talking among each other like, hey, who was your favorite class? The teachers that they mention usually are the ones they are in the second group that I mentioned, the ones that already have experience out there, and, and they don't usually mention the ones that are more into academic kind of thing.
If so, you meet a lot of young people, obviously, as your students, because how old are your students on average?
Average, I will say between it has to be between 20 and 25. And there are a
So,
couple, they are like 28, 29, something like that. Usually like
uh,
20, 25.
what is their outlook on life? What is their outlook on the world of work?
Uh, I'm afraid that most of them are a little bit scared about what will come after they go out of school because right now, I mean, most of them are still living with their parents. They have a steady job because I mean, I teach in the afternoon, so most of them they already have a steady job in the morning, but it's not what they studied. Usually, it's like a coffee shop or a restaurant or a call center, jobs like that. And when you start asking them, like, what are you expecting after this eighth semester, which is the last one, most of them are very scared and afraid because about the unexpected, and because a lot of us, like me, that went through the process of being 4 years in school, going outside, start knocking on doors, and have like 100 applications, not getting a job at the first year or second year or third year. So when you share those stories, they're like, oh my, like what's gonna be for me? So most of them are kind of scared, but they also want to be prepared. So that's why they keep asking you questions like, how's the professional life out there? And my job and my responsibility is to start encourage them so they can start their professional life right away. They don't wait until they're out of school to start their professional life. I mean, they can start doing with some internships and work and stuff. But yeah.
But are they, is their main focus on finding jobs, or are they also like, no, we're gonna start some business or social enterprise ourselves? How do they see that?
Um, Sadly, most of them are focused on finding a job. That's because um, I don't I cannot speak for the rest of the world, but at least speak for and I have always said it even at school. Like in Mexico, we haven't taught to be an employee. Go to school, learn how to be an employee or to be a manager. They don't teach us how to develop skills. They don't teach us how to be an entrepreneur. They don't teach us how to be a successful entrepreneur, or they don't even teach how to charge for your work that you do. So that's why most of the students have that chip already installed that they need to be an employee. So, like you said, I mean, most of them are ready or to just find a job.
So are you discussing then with your colleagues, your other teachers, to help these students to make this mindset shift? Or
Um,
how to help them in that process? Because obviously they need help. Yeah, we can say, well, it's stupid or you shouldn't think like that, but that is just the way people are brought up. That's the way our schooling system is. That's the way our university system is to prepare you for a job. So they need a mindset shift to create their own business, their own organization, their own thing. So I'm wondering whether you as teachers have discussion among yourselves and say, how can we help them with making that shift?
yeah, and it's very hard. It's very hard. I mean, it's easier said than done, of course. But the first thing that I can do, and the thing that I'm doing, is to start at my class. That's the first thing that I do. Try to encourage my 30 or 40 students that I have per semester. That's the first thing that I do. Because honestly, like going the principal or going to the main university or something, start changing things hard. So I was like, okay, so I need to, what can I do? So what I started to do was like starting at my own class and changing the subjects and trying to I mean, my students. And then now, at the last meeting that we had for the teachers, because we have a meeting before the semester, the last meeting that we had, I saw something very interesting that most of the teachers will start talking about a couple of subjects that were very important for the students, and so I'm starting to see that at least on my faculty where I work, we're gonna start doing some changes at least there, but it took me like 2 years, you know, and start talking to some other teachers and starting like, hey, this is how the real world is looking. We should be teaching these kids how to be prepared for this world. But it's very individual effort. Uh, yeah, but we're getting there.
What are some of the, if you had, suppose you had more influence than you have today, which will come at a certain point in time, but if you would have more influence, what are the top three things you would change in the current educational system?
I will change not to grade the students, because I think that most of the students are focused on having a good grade other than actually learn. And I have seen it in my class. I mean, they're more focused on getting at 10 because in Mexico it's from 1 to 10. Uh, and so they're more focused on getting a good grade instead of going to class and learn and do more research about the topics they need to learn. So will be one of the main things. The other one will be like make it a little more real and more add more practices to the to the like like learning with real cases and having real companies for the test or for whatever they need to do. Make it more real for like how the real world is out there. The third, um, I don't know. I will encourage them to look for that entrepreneurship world. Um, Even though that I know uh, by my experience that entrepreneurship is not for everyone, but I think that at least they should have an experience of how to be an entrepreneur or working in an entrepreneurship project, like a startup or a business or opening a business or working a real company or something like that. So with the three I will change for start, I guess.
Yeah, but it's I agree with you that there's a large gap between on one hand being an employee and on the other hand being an entrepreneur. But there are many different things filling that gap. There are obviously freelancers, which are typical specialists in one
Yes.
area. You now see people who play roles in the sharing economy, like I have a day job and in the evening I'm an Uber driver, or I'm retired but I'm renting out my room with Airbnb. So that is also
Yes.
a new type of role. I in actually in our new in the new worker meetup, the next one coming up, we talk about network marketing. That is also an area which fills that gap. So there are already things there, and there are things emerging which means that it's not an either or choice, like I have to be an employee or an entrepreneur, but there are many things occurring in between. And I don't know what the status is in Mexico about social entrepreneurship, which I think could be potentially be the fastest growing area, because in any country, in any culture, there are huge needs in many different social areas, and where I think where young people especially can contribute heavily, and not only can but also have to, because we see everywhere the governments are withdrawing their activities, so it means that citizens have to take responsibility, and social enterprise can fill that gap. So how do you see that young people are more interested in meaningful work, social work? How's that happening?
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and like you were saying, I think we should be looking at it more because at the end, we're part of a community. We're part of this social environment. I was reading an article the other day about Finland, which is the country, the number one country in education, and how they were not grading the students individually. What they were doing is as a group, because at the end, the government is saying like, what is good for me if I have one or the top three students with the best scores, and I have 40 that are not doing that well. That's not gonna help my society. So what they do is they do it as a group. They do the grades or test or whatever, they do it as a group, because at the end that's going to be reflected how these students are going to be in the community. So I think there will be a major change that we need to start doing it in the schools. We need to stop grading them individually. That way we can start moving forward to the society, to the community, um, and, and then we can start working on the social projects, because at the end it's okay for you to make money, but they need to learn that okay, you can make money, but you need to give back something to society, because we're a part of the whole system. But one of the tendencies that I have seen, the trends that I have seen for the next year, especially, is in the startup world, entrepreneur world, there are even like more and more we're seeing more incubators, more accelerators. They're looking for social impact projects. They're looking for sustainable projects, and I think that's sometimes very. So we're going to see that more often.
Absolutely. And how is that with individual? Are your students also involved in volunteering work, or is it only study and work? Well, work to pay for your study and that's it.
Yeah, sadly, yeah, that's how it is. I mean, most of them they have a job in the morning and they go to school in the afternoon, and they also need to do thousand homeworks and final projects, so they don't have time. Um, but yeah, they do have some community service at the start of university they have to fulfill, but most of them they're just like they just buy something or do something so they can get the signature and get their hours released and move on. But they're not working in a real project as a social impact with social impact.
Okay. So David, fortunately the recording is working. So our folks, we have a whole community in Morocco, in Tangier. They're mostly young people are really looking into work. How do you suppose that you were a bit older and you would have young kids, 16, 17, 18, would you recommend them to go to university, or would you just recommend them to start a business or to join a startup or to gain experience in different areas? Because that is a big discussion. So what's your viewpoint on that?
Yeah, it is a big discussion. It's a very hard question to answer. Um, I will go for the basic and say like, yeah, you need to go to school. I mean, it's something that you have to do because it teaches you a lot of things, but you also need to start doing some more things outside of it and be worried about what you're learning. And sometimes very hard because I mean, even though that I can think in a very idealistic way, like yeah, we should go to school and you should be learning skills instead of developing some other things. It's very hard, but yeah, I will definitely recommend going to school, but I will focus more on what are you going to study, like not only going to school for going to school, like what are you really good at and what do you like to do, and then find the project, the career that you want to study according to your skills and the things you like. So I will be more focused on that, and instead of if you want to go or not to school, because I think that's a big thing. That most of the kids that are studying right now, they didn't want to study that career, that I don't know major or wherever they're studying. So that's a big problem too.
I understand, but at the same time, you said that it was kind of a coincidence that you yourself moved into teaching, while it
Yeah.
was not something which you said, well, that was my big dream. And we all know that it's very hard when you're 16, 17, 18 years old to already have a very clear picture of your future, of what your strengths are, what your passion is. That is not easy. So how would you recommend that they cope with that? If I say, well, I understand what you're saying, David, but I just don't know.
Mm. Yeah. Um, that's a tough one. um, yeah, I think there are more major things that need to happen. It has to be more options for the students, and I'm starting to see in it right now. I'm starting to see more options other than public schools. So that's a good thing because at the end, we're starting to see more competition among schools. So that's something that's very good because that will bring the level of education a little bit more higher. So that's always good. But for the people, for the students, it's tough because I mean, I feel like with what you're asking me, I will need to go with each person, each student, each kid, and tell them like, hey, you're gonna go to school, but you need to learn how to learn. You need to learn how to develop skills and focus on what you're learning instead of the grades and make sure you learn and make sure you're challenging your teachers and make sure that what you have been receiving at your school is good. But like you're saying, they don't know. Like I didn't know that I was a good teacher because I never had the chance to try. But I had the chance. They gave me the opportunity and I took it. But it's one story out of how many. So I think we need to give more opportunities to these kids to try and to learn different things and to say like, you know what, I want to be a dancer. Let's be a dancer. You know what, I want to be an engineer. I want to learn how to program. I want to be an architect. But they need to learn. They want to be that. It's because they already tried it or they had the chance to try it. I don't know. It's a very hard topic. That yeah.
It is, but it's worthwhile working on because so many, I think there are millions of young people struggling with that question. Last question before we open up the floor for Q&A. There's also this contradiction is that you go to school, you go to university to learn, but many people and still think when they finished it, when they got their diploma, the certificate, then learning stops. Yeah, and we all know that all the changes in this society require that we even continue learning in a harder and a faster way than we did before. So how do you encourage your students to keep on learning once they finish their school or the university?
Well, like they say like if you want to teach them, you need to learn first, and you need to be a good example to them. So what I do is to keep myself like really updated with what's going on, so I can feel it and I can give them that information to them. And at the end of the semester, they have been like, okay, I have learned this from you, and one of the main things that I want to teach them is they need to continue that learning. So I think one of the first things for me, being an example to them, um, and encourage them. I don't during the semester I don't give much homework. I try to do more exercises in class, and that has been very successful because they start to learn how to do research, how to work in a team instead of just going to their houses and Google some kind of homework that the teacher assigns or something. So I think that we need to develop skills instead of grading the students and teach them what we have. So yeah, I think we need to start to develop skills in the students.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is why with the new ABC we said lifelong learning is one of the key skills, yeah, and it already says what it is. It's lifelong. It doesn't stop, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I thank you very much, David, for sharing your insights. I want to open up the floor for any questions, remarks, whatever. If you have a question, please raise your hand and unmute yourself. And so, who has a question?
And if not, I can just keep talking, don't worry.
If I can, I will start.
Go ahead, Laura.
Okay. I have just a small one, David.
Sure.
It's not an easy one. Do you gamify your courses, your teaching? Do you use your gamification skill within your teaching?
That's a very good question. Very glad that you asked that, because I think another important thing to share tonight or today, it's about the new trends in education and the skills that the teacher needs to start to develop in, and where the world is going, and the kind of tools that we need to start using in school. Like I was reading an article the other day about how VR is going to people are going to start using it in education, using the VR kind of things, and like you're saying, like gamification. I think more students, more teachers, I mean, they need to start using techniques of gamification and marketing and entrepreneurship to engage the students. I haven't had the time to run a proper gamification program with my students because I need more data, I need more information. But yeah, I have been using some things like I'm saying, like okay, I'm not gonna give you homework, but you need to be here at school, and if you're at school, I'm gonna give you this, and you need to finish this and this and this. So that's one of the things that I have been trying to do with them specifically. Like instead of giving them homework to do in their houses, I try to encourage them to go to class so it can be engaged during the whole semester. So it's gonna be harder for them to miss a class because they know they need to be there. So yeah, but I haven't run a program specifically. I need more information, I need more data. But yeah, it's on my plans.
David, you actually trigger another question. Are there programs, I don't know, for certain professions, like I know for doctors and lawyers, for them it's mandatory, I think, every year, and even it's arranged by law that they need to upgrade and update themselves. Yes, they need to have so many hours, then they get credit or whatever, otherwise they lose their license. How is that for teachers? Or maybe it should be institutionalized for teachers, because you cannot expect someone who became a teacher 5 years ago that you know about virtual reality. So you need a kind of a course or yourself in order to learn about these new techniques. I just this morning shared an article with Rotana about using Periscope for education. And so these are new things which apparently, well, you cannot know because it's new, but you need to find the time or whatever to work with your colleagues to learn it. Is there something like that to these yearly programs to educate and teach learners, teachers?
They offer you some courses and stuff, but they're more like learn how to teach and learn how to have a better program. But they're not about your skills as a marketing guy. At least I can speak for the faculty that I'm in. So they're just courses about how to learn how to teach, but not specifically for your own skills as a teacher with your major that you have. So most of the improvements that I have done at my class is because of the things that I do at the Mind Hub, which has helped me to be up to date with the technology and information and meeting different people. Like right now, like look at us, we are in different parts of the world, and having learning to use technology. So my first impulse, my first reaction is to bring this knowledge to my students, and I wish more teachers could do that. And let me give you a couple of scary facts, okay? So I was looking the other day some of the books that the kids are using in public schools, and for my surprise, I noticed they are the same books that I used 20 years ago in elementary school. So the same books that I used in a public school 20 years ago are the same that are using right now. 20 years. I'm talking about 20 years, and it hasn't been an improvement. I'm pretty sure they have changed some things. I mean, they're teaching the same thing 20 years after, and that's one thing that really scared me. And in my own school and university, there are a couple of teachers that were not very good with me 8 years ago, and I'm still hearing some of my students complaining about the same teachers, and I was like, oh, man, that's not good. So, but yeah, that's what I had to say.
Okay.
But no, there should be more, like Rotana said, like train the teachers. We need to learn how to develop our own skills as a professional guy, not only as a teacher, like me as a marketing guy, like you as an engineer, or you as a doctor, or whatever.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a lot, and I prefer to maybe
Go
if
ahead,
someone else
Laura.
have.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, David, but it's very interesting for me, you know that. And I'm using a lot now here in Europe, Coursera, and this kind of platform like Udemy. What is for you the future of teaching, of the traditional teaching and the one you do now with this type of video platform? What will be for you the evolution between these two media and these two ways to learn something?
Yeah, I think it will give, and it should give more opportunity to more people to learn stuff. A lot of things that I have learned in the past year and a half since I joined the incubator was through online courses and online papers and online articles that people posted on Twitter, that people posted on Udemy, like you're saying. So I found that amazing. I was so amazed to being able to learn about lean analytics and the lean startup and gamification, all those kind of topics. They would have been totally unreachable for me if I will go to a school or to a physical school. So I think more people should know how to learn out of that. But that's also, like Arnold said, that's also a skill that you need to develop. Need to learn how to learn by yourself, and you need to how to e-learn. I mean, which is on a online platform like that. And I think the future will be more online courses, that's for sure. and people should be using it more often. And I think yeah, like technologies like the VR that I already mentioned, the virtual reality, I think will make a huge improvement in a lot of professions like engineers, doctors, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely.
And also, well, a little bit with the question that you asked before about the teachers, I think that we as teachers, we need to learn how to develop skills in the students. That's something very important. Like, because it's very sad. Because I mean, with the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, and the entrepreneur ecosystem that I'm working with, usually they ask me like, "Hey, can you recommend some of your students to be here and work with me?" And I look at my students, I'm like, so which one could I recommend? I don't see the skills, the necessary skills that they should have for that kind of work. That's kind of sad. So what I have to do is to teach them how to develop, or to help them to develop those skills. Like for example, one of the kids that was my intern in the last semester, I mean, he didn't have the knowledge to be working with the incubator, but he had some specific skills that I saw, and that's what I look and I said like, okay, this kid has the skills to learn by himself. He can relate with other people. He knows how to speak in public, and he has the specific skills that we need. So we gave him the opportunity, and then uh, we taught him how to do the work at the incubator. But we noticed specific skills, and I think that's what more people are gonna start looking in the future. Like they're not gonna start looking at what you know to do specifically, like what can you do and how fast can you learn, and and how many people do you know, and those kind of skills. So I think that's something very important for teachers, that we need to learn how to develop those skills in the students.
So that would mean that those teachers should first follow a new ABC course. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
they are able to learn and adapt those skills themselves, and then they can help teach them to others.
Yeah, because I mean, now that you mention it, that's a very good idea, and I'm glad that it worked. You know, with co-creation, I love it, because uh, we have the future in front of us right now, and we have seen the pain points all over the place, and we're saying, okay, so what does the student need to do? And we said, okay, so we need to teach the student, we need to help them to develop the skills, we need to teach them, and blah blah blah. But there's also another things we can start doing, which is helping the teachers, and that's something that I learned in my experience, based on my experience, because uh, for the incubator, which is the other job that I have, uh, the main projects that we receive are from students, because they are more eager to learn the new technologies, and they already have a smartphone, so they are very in touch with all the technology. So what we were doing like conferences, we were giving workshops, we were giving talks, we were giving a lot of things to them. And then we were thinking in a meeting, we were like, okay, so we're doing this every semester, we're doing this every 2 months. So then we came up with ideas like, why don't we teach the teachers also, so it can help us and be like a major, so we can work together here. Because I told them my experience, like, because I started teaching before I joined the incubator. So as soon as I joined the incubator, that I started looking at this different world for me. My first reaction, as already mentioned, was to bring this information to my students. So I was like, okay, so if you're a good teacher, have this precious information, what you should do is to bring this precious information to your students. So what we learned that day was that, okay, so we're going to continue doing the workshops, doing the conferences, and inviting all the students, but we're also going to teach the teachers. So when there's an event, the teachers by themselves are going to be like, hey, you student, you need to go to this conference. Hey, you need to go to the startup weekend. Hey, you need to go to this workshop. So it has been very easy for us to work after that we did that. So we started doing some tours with the teachers. We started doing some workshops with the teachers, and it has been working better for us. In that way, you will have the two sides of it, students and the teachers. So when you go again and start teaching the students, you already have the teacher helping you and supporting your information.
Okay, great. One last question. Anybody?
It's not a question, rather I would say remark, David. Being a beneficiary and facilitator of some of the TNA coaching programs, I can certainly verify that I myself is a PhD candidate here in Budapest and a researcher. So by now I know that I have a set line of growth. I mean, where I'm moving academic direction, but I still try to go and meet people who I would not normally consider to get along with, like entrepreneurs and business people and other than academics. So this gives me a very unique perspective to see problems from different perspectives and develop a complete 360-degree view. So I think that is very useful in developing in students' view, because currently the problems we are facing are not one-dimensional. They have to be tackled in a multi-dimensional fashion. Otherwise, it's just impossible to crack them. And that's why encouraging students to go to areas which they normally would not consider because of the preconceived notions and biases we have that, oh, this is not for me. Why? Because this is the way I have grew up. So breaking those silos, barriers, I think is very important. And 3 years ago, I was an instructor at my university and taught a preparatory course. At that time, I remember I was a bit non-traditional, I would say. Did not give many homeworks and encourage them to work together with each other. And this way, I remember I learned more than I'm afraid to say more than students learn themselves.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not. I just wanted to share this.
Yeah, sure, and it's great. And there's a phrase that says like, you teach what you like to learn. So when I'm teaching, I learn even more than them. But that helps me to be better and better. So thank you very much for sharing your story. And also, I was also at a conference the other day, and he was saying that when he was the person who was talking, he said like when I was a teacher, he said I was giving my students to start a company, to start a project, which was part of the whole semester. And he was like, okay, but if I'm asking them as a teacher to do something, I should be the best at it because I'm teaching them. So I'm gonna do the project with them. So that when I heard that, I was like, I should do that in my class, like, because I'm teaching them, for example, how to do a marketing plan, for example. I need to do it with them so they can see that I can do it, because if I'm teaching them how to do it, I should be the best at it because I'm teaching them how to do it. So I think that's quite challenging for teachers, and we at the end we learn. I love to learn.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're at the end, and I don't want to take much of your time because for most of us it's Christmas morning.
Yeah.
The second Christmas day. So I really appreciate, David, that you stayed up so late to share us with your insights and learnings, and we really, really appreciate that. And I would like to thank the people who attended this as well. And I wish you very happy holidays, good New Year, and see you in the New Year in our next webinars with another Mexican friend of ours, Jorge Barba, who's one of the innovation leaders in the world. So really looking forward to that. And again, wishing you all the best and see you soon.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much, David. All the best all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.